Being the appointed hour, I call us to order. So, sir, can we have a roll call?
Yes.
And see if we have a quorum?
Ellen Sheridan. Dr. Ruth Cox.
Present?
Jim Bisbee.
Here.
Tony Bryant.
Here.
Annette Stone.
Here.
Trip Ure.
Here.
Peggy Broadway.
Here.
Candace Sullivan. We have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. So before we begin the meeting, members of the commission, I'd like to bring up an issue. We'd like to add one item to the agenda down here under applications of 226 New Street regarding a shed in the back that they have talked with us about. Does anyone object to us adding that to the agenda tonight?
1 minute.
Madam Chair, just in the spirit of being helpful and laying some additional facts on the record, the application for 223 New Street appeared before you all and was noticed for the May 2022 meeting.
Yes.
At that time, the applicant and his authorized representative were unavailable. You all moved to continue the application for 223 New Street to this meeting.
226.
I'm sorry, 226 New Street. At which time it was inadvertently, that application was inadvertently left off your printed agenda. However, it's my understanding from reviewing the packet from the May meeting that all of the notices and everything were proper for May. The motion to continue to today was valid. So you all do have jurisdiction to hear that application for 222 New Street if you are so inclined. I do believe the applicant is here. Sir, will
That's
you
my
raise your
next
hand?
question. Is the applicant here? Okay, all right.
And
so
I
you have
think
the
staff
applicant.
may be ready to present that information during this meeting.
Okay, and do we have to do a vote call to add that to the agenda?
It certainly wouldn't hurt, but I don't think it's necessary because there's a continuum from the last meeting. So you can,
Well,
is the
we
short
will,
answer.
just to be on the safe side. So all of those in favor say aye.
Was there a motion?
Want a motion?
Okay,
Motion and second, please.
okay,
I move that we add it to the agenda.
okay.
Second.
Okay, we got a second with Peggy. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing no, so your motion passes. So we will add that to the end of the agenda after 622 East Front Street. Okay, so now we've had the roll call. Can I have a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Second over there with Tony. Call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against? Hearing none, the motion passed.
Can I have the motion? Who was the motion? Jim? And Tony was the
Tony
second?
second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, the Historic Preservation Commission is a public commission appointed by the City of New Bern's Board of Aldermen. It is responsible for preserving and safeguarding New Bern's locally designated historic districts, downtown and Riverside, based on U.S. Department of Interior standards, state statutes, city ordinances, and New Bern's historic guidelines. Two of the major tasks of the HPC include approving applications for a certificate of appropriateness and preventing demolition of historic structures due to neglect. The HPC holds a quasi-judicial hearing on an application for a certificate of appropriateness. The Commission hears sworn testimony and evidence provided by the applicant, by parties who received notice of the hearing, and by others who can justify that they have relevant evidence and are directly affected by the application. The Commission cannot consider comments based on personal likes or dislikes, hearsay, or personal opinion that cannot be directly related to historic guidelines. Likewise, commissioners shall refrain from stating personal opinions, personal likes or dislikes, or hearsay during a hearing. A commission's decision on an application is based solely on testimony and evidence presented at a hearing that directly relates to the historic guidelines. So anyone who intends to give evidence or to speak at the hearing tonight needs to come forth to the podium, sign the list that I believe I see up there, and then you'll have to be sworn in. So anyone who's going to speak.
Anybody who's going to speak, please come forward. All right.
Yes, even if you're an applicant, mostly if you're an applicant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause
All
most
right.
likely you don't.
Raise your right hand, and do you swear to tell the truth, to the best of your knowledge? So if you haven't already, please print and your name and your address. If someone who hasn't been sworn in wants to speak later, we'll have to swear you in that.
Okay, so everybody has signed in now. Okay, so this is how the hearing process will go. The HPC administrator provides an overview of the application. The applicant or their representative presents the application, if they so desire. Proponents and opponents who receive notice of the hearing can present evidence. Rebuttal is allowed by the applicant and by proponents and opponents who receive notice. Others who can justify that they have relevant information and will be directly affected can present evidence. The applicant or their representative has an opportunity to make final comments on their application. Commissioners discuss the evidence and may ask for clarification from the applicant or their representative. The chairman calls for a motion to approve or deny the application with stated finding of fact. The motion is discussed by the commission. The chairman calls for a vote on the motion by the commission. A COA can be approved. It can be approved with conditions. It can be continued, or it can be denied. Right? So we will go to the first application, which is 516 Craven Street.
Yes, okay, and to note that Ms. Sullivan has arrived at 5:40. Okay. This is the application for 516 Craven Street for Mr. Gutzeit and Margot Casperman. And their project is for the removal and replacement of an existing fence, section and gate, sections and gate. They've provided the guidelines, sections, and a description of the materials. And they've filled out the rest of the application and signed and dated it. They also provided some additional information related to the illustrations that they've provided as well. And some photographs. I'm going to make this a little smaller so we can see the full page, most of the page anyway. All right. That's the front of the house, and the gate is at the back of the driveway on the left. So it's nothing to do with the white fencing or the white railing. It's the brown fencing halfway back on the left. Here's a closer-up view of that. It is the fencing between the neighbor's fence on the left and the corner of the one-story piece of the building there on the right. It includes both sections of fencing and the gate. Those will be removed. Here we have a site plan. I'll have to enlarge this. And so this Craven Street is at the top of the page, front of the house at the top of the page. And so the driveway that we were talking about is the right-hand side of the house. This shows the existing fence in the front, and it has an angled piece on the left side, and then about 3 feet back from that is where the new proposed fence will go with its gate. There would be a slight adjustment to this plan to angle the fence to allow for the gate to be in an angled piece, as we'll see in a second. So these are photos of the existing. I'm going to have to go out somewhat. All right, so upper left shows the condition, and all of these show the current condition of the fence. So they are looking to replace that fence. They have descriptions here. If we need to get to any of this information later, we can do this. This is an example of the fencing that they're looking at. You can see what I'm talking about with the angle. The side fences will, before reaching the fence, will add these small angle pieces, and then the actual metal gate will be in between those. And this is also an example of the style of the fencing as well. The height would not exceed 6 feet. In fact, closer to 5 feet. 4.5. So 62 inches for the top of the post, and pickets about 58 inches, and then the rest of the information is the distances to the ends of those fences. And then at the bottom you can see the gate is 36 inches wide, and the gaps between the pickets is 3 inches or less. 3 inches is the proposal. All right, so the zoning and inspections form here shows that the zoning administrator has determined that this project does meet the requirements of the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector has indicated that it will not require a building permit. And then we're ready with the recommendations whenever you are.
Okay. Do we have among the commissioners any conflict of interest with this project? Seeing none, or does anyone have any issues with the application's completeness? Seeing none. So does the applicant wish to present anything else on this application at this time?
I do not. I feel it's complete.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Question.
Okay. Are there, you can have a seat, okay? Are there any notified opponents in the house with us tonight? Seeing none. Are there any notified proponents in the house? Seeing none. So there's no rebuttal from any of those people. Is there anyone with relevant evidence and has standing who wants to speak? Seeing none. Is there anyone who can provide any information from the state, the city, or our governmental body who would like to speak? Seeing none. So, Administrator, would you like to tell us the staff findings and the recommendations?
Certainly. So these are the findings and recommendations for the application for Margot, Casper, and Howard Goodsite for 516 Craven Street. The historic property name is the Richardson House. That is a contributing structure. And the National Register inventory indicates that the house is built around 1920. It is 2 stories, 3 bays wide, has a hip roof with large pedimented front dormer. And for the from Sandbeck, there was nothing relevant to the fencing. So for 516 Craven Street, the project is to include internal fencing in the secondary AVC. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application: for fences and garden walls, 2.5.1, 2, and 3. For metal, 5.3.3 and 4. For paint, 5.4.3 and 4. And the statements of reason based on the information contained in the application in staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located in the type weave development pattern. The proposal is an internal fencing project. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the application is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Okay.
So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include internal fencing in the secondary AVC.
So ma'am, do you have any other comments you'd like to make at this time? No, hearing none. Okay, so commissioners, what questions might you have? What discussion do you want to have about this fencing?
The example fence that you used was yellow, the surrounding fence is a white. This is going to be a white fence?
Yes, I would paint it white.
White, yeah.
It's gonna be custom built, so.
Okay, do we have any other questions? Okay, my question is, the fence gate that we see in the pictures that you provide us, is that the actual gate that you're going to use?
No, it's just an example of the gate. I've not purchased anything until I find out that you all gave approval. These wrought iron fences and gates are very expensive, so I'm not pursuing it. The posts there are 62 inches, so it would be within that range. It's certainly not gonna be 6 feet tall by any means, it's gonna be taller than the fence.
Yeah, it can't be tall. Okay, well, we would actually need to see the gate to approve it. So I guess one of the, if we want to proceed on with this, one of the things that we would have to say is that we would need to see the actual gate that you are asking to be used here, and we could let that be approved by the administrator, but we've got to see the actual gate.
The gate design.
Yes, the gate design, yes. Okay?
I'm not quite following. I mean, my concept is that is the type of gate that we would like to put up.
And can you come up to the microphone,
I
please?
can't,
Give you a picture of an exact fence or gate until, because I don't know exactly what we're gonna buy.
Okay.
She's saying you just give that to the administrator and he would approve that.
Okay.
Presumably, we'll act on the proposal as a whole, but the condition would be you'd see the administrator with the design of the gate.
Or something to be designed, not that I have to go purchase a gate.
So many people will get someone to design it. Some people will find one at the store and take a picture. Some other people will find them online and take a screenshot. Any of those would work. We just need to know the 3-inch spacing and the height of the gate as a dimension, and then we're good.
or a sketch,
Yep, yes, the design. A sketch design, right? It doesn't have to be a fabrication design. It could just be a sketch. That's correct.
Okay, I guess that's what I thought that was.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I think when she asked, you had said no, but, so you want something like this?
yes, consistent with that, and with the period, and that's there. Is it gonna be that exact fence? I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Well, and that's what we're asking for. We need a picture of kind of the exact fence that you're going to use. So we can move forward tonight with the stipulation that when you find the actual gate that you're going to use, you need to bring a picture of it in some format, a sketch, a picture offline, and let him look at it to make sure that it's the right height and it fits into your post like it should be.
And I'd like to suggest that the condition allow the construction of the fence, but not the installation of the gate until the gate has also been approved.
Okay, so
That way they
whoever,
can continue, get started on the
Right.
fence at least.
so whoever puts the project forward, that would be one of the conditions for us to do that. Okay? All right, is there any other questions, comments? Okay, all right, does someone want to put a motion forward about this fence with the stipulation that has been asked for.
I move that we find the application for 516 Craven Street for certificate appropriateness be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, Section 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Fences and garden walls, 2.5.1, 2, and 3. Metal, 5.3.3, 5.3.4. Paint, 5.4.3 and 5.4.4. Findings of fact. The project's located in the tight weave development pattern. The proposal is an internal fencing project. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. Zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. The application is not incongruous with the guidelines, with the condition that you can go ahead with the installation of the fence, but you'll provide our administrator with a picture of the proposed gate before installation.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second of your turn. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. Can I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
So moved over here to my left. Is there a second?
Second.
Over here to my other left is a second. Can I call for a vote? All of those in favor?
Wait, Jim, can you actually verbalize your second?
I said second.
He
Oh,
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. He
Thank you.
said second. Are we okay to go forward?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a second, we have a motion, we have a second. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed. So you can start with your fencing, and once you decide on the specific gate, then you can just contact him and he will talk with you about that. Okay? All right, thank you very much. Okay? All right, so our next item for tonight is 318 Liberty Street.
All right. So here we have the application for the project by Catherine and Peter Adolph. And their descriptions are all attached on the separate sheet. They've provided various pieces and signed and dated. Here's the project information. It's a 19 by 20 room addition to be added to the back of the existing structure. And the addition will house a bathroom with washer and dryer, and a bedroom. And secondly, the specific guidelines they mention are mentioned here. And then lastly, the materials to be used are cement, wood, and new shingle roof. And then also, we'll see in a minute, also some metal siding. So these are pages that staff added specifically for the last discussion, but left them in case we need to come back to them. And those are all the various guidelines. In case there were some questions. So on this project, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. The county GIS system shows the property as two separate properties, but indeed it's only one property. We have attached also here the various deeds to demonstrate that. Essentially, the upper half, well, let's say the lower half is an access easement, and so the line between the two should probably just be a dashed line. And the access easement is for the benefit of the property in the upper right corner, the white building, the white roofed building there. Let's see, go down. So the addition will cross that, that dashed line. That's why that's an important distinction. So, and these are some of the deeds. I'll just quickly breeze through through those. All right, now we have our photographs of the existing building. This is the front with the sidewalk at the bottom in the upper left and a better angled view of that front. Then the side, the right-hand side, so the front is off picture on the left. And then on the lower right-hand corner is the back of the existing building showing a wooden addition on the back there. You can see also the entire structure is concrete block with some siding enclosing the gable ends. And so this is now a rear view on the upper left, and then a closer up shot of the wood addition from the, I guess, the left side, or we should probably say the northeastern corner. And then the rounding the building, then this is the back corner of the left side of the building, left as you look at the front of the building. So the addition, I'll go back up a second, is to be built in this area on back of this building, on the pretty much most of the back of the building with an offset, and we'll see that in a minute too. But this wooden structure will be removed in order to do that. So these are some of the sketches. And so here we see a sketch of that new addition with the 2 windows and a door and the gable, with the rear of the existing building in the background, so to say, on the right side of this sketch. So the new addition is just the single gable with the 2 windows and the doors from this side. You can see the pitch of the roof is the same, 4 and 12, as the existing roof, which is 4 and 12. And so that's may come up later as well as meeting one of the guidelines. And then this is a better floor plan of the better one. A floor plan showing at the top of the drawing was the existing building, existing structure, which is 20 by 30, and then the new addition on the back. And you'll see it has a 5-foot shift over from the existing building, and that's because the property line actually is on the face, essentially on the face of the existing building, and there's a requirement for the 5-foot setback in zoning. So that has caused that. And then there's plenty of room on the left-hand side with regard to the setback. All right, and then this is a sketch of the floor plan, and we'll see here not only are there 2 windows on the back, which is at the bottom here, which is, there we go. Oh, that is going to keep happening. All right, the 2 windows and the door on the back. On this, the left side of the drawing, which is the right side of the building on the front. We also have other windows that we'll see in a second. And then on the side facing the side that's close to the property line, there are no windows. All right. So, moving down. This is a section of the building showing its construction. It is a concrete slab construction with 2x4 studs and then roof trusses, and then insulation throughout. But the roof does have an overhang similar to the existing one, and the siding is shown here on the left side here is indicated. We'll see some photos of that, and then also the roofing is shown to be shingles. All right. So they've attached some more photos. Yes, of metal siding that is on some of the adjacent nearby buildings, right there. I guess on the adjacent lot, you could say. The big white building, the building with the white roof also extends along its right-hand side or southern side, the existing construction is concrete block, and then it does have some metal siding on some additions. You can see that there, even better there. And then some more of that metal siding, and then that siding goes all the way around for that entire addition. All right, so other than that, we have our zoning and inspections report. So it does meet the requirements of the land use ordinance, and it will require a building permit. And then we're ready with our recommendations.
Okay. Does anybody have a conflict of interest with this building? Does anybody have any issues on the application's completeness on the commission? All right. So would the applicant like to add anything else to this? No? Hearing none. Are there any, do you have something you want to add?
I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the
Well, we're
commission might have.
not right there
We're
yet.
not there.
Hold on, we'll get there, we're not there. Okay, are there any notified proponents in the audience? Any notified opponents? Seeing none. Is there anybody with relevant evidence and has standing that would like to present? Seeing none. Is there anyone from the city, state, or any government body that would like to make a presentation? Seeing none. Let us have your staff findings.
All right. Findings and recommendations for the project at 318 Liberty Street for Ms. Catherine Adolph and Mr. Peter Adolph. The historic property name is not applicable. It's questionable as to whether or not it's contributing or non-contributing. It is not mentioned in the National Register inventory nor in Sandbag. So the project is for 318 Liberty Street to include an addition in the Tertiary AVC. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application. So design principles 3.1.1, 2, 4, and 5. For modifications 3.2.1 and 2. For additions 3.3.1, 2, and 3. For walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4. For windows, doors, and openings 4.3.2. For masonry 5.1.5. For wood 5.2.1 and 2. For paint 5.4.2, 3, and 4. For contemporary materials 5.5.1, 2, 3, and 6. And so the statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. 2, the proposal is a small one-story addition to an existing concrete block one-story structure. 3, proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include an addition in the tertiary AVC.
Okay, so members of the commission, do you have questions? Do you have comments that you'd like to make about this addition to this building?
The existing building is
So you can
concrete.
come up. He's going to ask you a question, so now's your time to come up.
The existing building is a concrete block building. The house next door is a concrete block building. I don't understand the reason for the metal sides. Is that metal sides covering cinder block, or is it just a metal-sided building?
The existing structure is concrete block, and the addition is proposed with metal siding. And if you look at I'm sure you know this area well and go there to understand its historic fabric. The metal siding on the city laundry, which the pictures showed, and I should have brought better dimensions, but I'm guessing 8 by 25, I don't know, is metal siding to that addition, which houses the utilities of a block building, which is the city laundry building, which is the closest building to the east of the proposed addition, the room addition. that metal siding I had requested during the time actually when Ms. Stone was in our city. And John would not let us take down the metal because it was historic fabric. So it is totally congruent with the 50s and 60s of the most adjacent building.
Yeah, I understand there's another metal structure in New Bern, but I don't see it as being congruent with the existing construction. I read the guidelines differently than you do, I guess. To me, it would be much more logical to make a cinder block building. The change in material and the picture really doesn't portray much of a future for the appearance of the siding of that building.
Well, it would all probably be pulled together with paint. I'm thinking navy blue paint with wood. So it would be a beautiful, this is a neighborhood which has not been traveled by most people in New Bern in recent years. It is not congruous with many things. I mean, it's a very eclectic neighborhood. And so, we could do a veneer, perhaps, that would make sense. Block takes up a lot of space. This is a project which it is not of concern to this commission why we're doing this project, but to provide a bathroom and a bedroom for a human being. So that is not in the purview nor is the responsibility of this commission. I understand that.
No.
But to take away very precious space would make it kind of nonsensical to us to do block. When we would do block and then again do a wooden structure at twice the money to do that, which again is not the consideration of this commission, and I understand that. If we are required to do some veneer over wood structure, but honestly, this is in the redevelopment area. This commission already approved the adjacent building, new construction, which will have metal siding on the upper part of the 70s building adjacent to it. It is an eclectic piece of the revitalization of this city, and I would hope that discretion of this commission would allow that kind of creativity, which is clearly appropriate by your guidelines. I hear your concern, Mr. Bisbee.
Yeah.
I do.
I differ on the appropriateness
Yeah,
of the
no,
guidelines.
I hear your concern. We differ on that.
Yeah.
I've pulled up on the screen the street view shots down this alley between the housing project and the city laundry, and to give you some ideas to the distance between the examples that she showed and the actual houses, the house that will have the addition. So here in the center of the photograph here is that subject area that she used for the metal, and this is now going to jump all the way to the end of the street because it doesn't do in between for some reason. And there is the building that we're looking at, and it was just behind this clump of shrubs
It's
and
adjacent
stuff.
to the city laundry, which is the most adjacent property to this property on the east.
All right. And and this photo is from 2007, so it's certainly probably doesn't look like that anymore today.
But it's not, you say that's the nearest adjacent, but it's like not right next door to it.
Well, so
The building next door to it is a white cinder block building
Right.
to its left.
So it's not close to the city laundry.
so this,
It's the closest building.
It backs up to it.
so if we look at the aerial view, which is not that, somewhere else. Why did it do that?
And you just closed out of it.
Right. So it's this area here. And so 320 is shown here. You can see that's the 318 is the actual address. That's the building we're talking about, and that addition is where it says Tap That Distillery right there. So, yeah, it's this section here. So it's, I mean, it's not like it's across town or even in another neighborhood or a portion of the neighborhood.
It's in Mont
That's-
Bellamy, in the same neighborhood.
So the big white building is between the distillery and this building that you're talking about on Liberty Street?
Correct. There are two warehouses. What
Right.
you probably would recognize as Tap That is 243 Fleet and the Artist Studios in front. The white flat roof, which you see there, is the back warehouse of the city laundry where my husband and I live, and in a third of that building, and have 2/3 of that building as artist studios and storage. So, but from the city's point of view, it is, and historically, it is all considered, both the back warehouse and the front warehouse, as the city laundry,
Right.
in its historic context.
And so again, what is your reasoning for not continuing with the cinder block, which is what this house is originally made of? What is, again, say your reason for
It's
not
very
doing that?
massive. The cinder block is very massive. It is not a good conductor. We have come to know the noise ordinance in our city. We've come to know sound issues. We've come to know a lot of things, living both in the downtown area, Metcalf, and now in Walt Bellamy. And so to have cinder block would require cinder block and additionally a wood structure with insulation. And again, I understand that this commission does not care about money or budget for citizens, but it requires twice the structure. It would take up, I mean, this is a 20 by 19 room addition. So cinder block would take up 16 plus another. It would take up precious space for the project, which doesn't make sense to us. I mean, I suppose we could do wood on the outside, which was also period, but clearly metal was period in the 1950s on the city laundry, and John Wood from the State Preservation Office would not allow us to take down that metal.
Sure, because it's been there. So how is metal going to be insulated? You talk about insulation. How is metal?
Because you do a wood frame, you insulate it, you have your exterior piece, you have metal. I'm sure, perhaps Mr. Uri, who's an architect, could better respond to some of those questions. But part of this is to save space within the structure, not to be, to be able to provide a bathroom for someone who's lived in a structure for 35 years without a shower.
Yeah, I understand why.
So
No,
is there
and-
any other, siding that you all like, would you be okay with wood? Is there another
Hardy
strip?
board
Jump
would be
in.
good.
Well, no, I'm going to pass on talking about insulation, if you don't mind. And
Okay.
this may or may not help us, but I would, based on the interpretation of a sentence in our overview and concepts, consider this a non-contributing structure.
Right.
And staff gave a little orientation to what the records show. And the reason I would say it's non-contributing is on page 1-8, a contributing structure is at least 50 years old, which this is, and is listed in the Department of Interior's Historic District Inventory of Structures, which is our nomination letter, as I understand it. And so it's not listed in the nomination letter, therefore it is non-contributing. And I'd further suggest we have a process to make it contributing if we should choose to do so, but I'm not sure this would qualify, in my opinion.
So that
lends to our, like, what's appropriate for an
Well,
addition in terms of the, it talks about a hierarchy of materials, and it doesn't say it has to extend the materials, just sort of this hierarchy.
And so then maybe under additions, 3.3.3,
Right.
on one hand, is at the core of the discussion we're having, talking about materials. But on the other hand, it talks about architectural embellishments and detailing are often simplified in
Right.
secondary and tertiary AVCs. And I realize I'm stretching things here a little bit, but we've got a less than ornate structure. You know, it's almost like a utility building in a lot of ways, and maybe more like an accessory structure. And so that's where I kind of find myself being maybe not entirely comfortable with the proposal, but also I could see where perhaps a different siding that we are, or a material that we are more comfortable with, would still be just as starkly different, you know, relative to the concrete masonry units, which again are another anomaly. Generally, that would never happen in the district, except of course it has, and so that's what's complicating our decision.
And it also says extend the architectural hierarchy of the primary structure to the addition. So,
The hierarchy doesn't mean
You know, so
copy all the materials,
so
it just means that it's less.
we've got some eaves, right?
Right.
And we've got some gables.
Right.
I could see where maybe that box is checked.
Select materials that are consistent with the structure. That seems to be pretty clear to me.
Well, I hear you.
Structure cinder block.
Well, so, but I wouldn't, you know, I would not say that it would have to be center block. I think, we're used to seeing wood lap siding. We'd probably be more comfortable with, lap siding. You know, that's why I asked the question, is there a siding other than
Board?
center block? Because you can see why that is not an efficient use of the small space they're trying to create, and, so would something besides center, because I mean, what would they do if would they do like an applied center block, something that looked like center block? I feel like if it was wood siding, we'd be used to that, and because it's metal, it's a little.
And Kathy, if you would, we're talking about metal siding. Are we talking about like roofing? Are we talking about big sheets of metal? And if so, how big are they? And
They
is
come
it,
in a lot of different sizes and panels, a lot of different colors, quite frankly.
It's a
You know,
coordinated,
again,
right?
if you look at the pictures that Mr. Shelley had of the existing adjacent building with its metal siding, and I hear that this commission is not accepting that perhaps as historic fabric, but it is. It's been there for 70 years.
But I think I think, Kathy, maybe
Yeah.
the one thing that makes it hard in that it's more of a sort of an industrial commercial use versus a residential use of the metal. So maybe the thing that just
You know,
doesn't
but
make
again,
it feel quite right.
to be harmonious with the new construction, which this commission has already approved for the Huff House, which has metal on the top part of the building.
As a
and then
roof.
On the sides,
On the
not
sides,
the roof.
okay.
So on the sides, to the block or the brick, from the base of the
Right,
house
wall.
to whatever,
Like the eight
A10,
from
whatever it
the-
is. So it would actually be harmonious within this complete site. Again, that is a new construction, which you have different regulations for. This is an addition to a great historic structure to be preserved, but it would not be incongruous to the actual total site of located in a redevelopment area. I mean, again, this is not, this is part of the redevelopment area, so
So the incongruous.
And when Trent Court is demolished, all of that will be new construction. So this will be the probably closest existing historic structure on Liberty Street.
So these would be strips of metal attached vertically as opposed to horizontal.
Could be either way.
And how wide are they, the strips?
I brought the material to the design review. I don't know if you have pictures of that. I didn't think I needed to bring it again. I brought it to the
Is
design
there an
review.
acceptable metal configuration for you?
Does it look like what I'm getting at, it's not like the roofing metal.
Kind
Yes,
of, but
it
it's
is.
sort of
Absolutely
stood up.
it is. Yeah, absolutely. Roofing metal and siding are very similar. They're metal.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're metal pieces that are adhered to either the top of a building or to the side of a building.
I'm currently looking at 316 Liberty, and the area that I'm seeing that is metal will be contributing to the roof. It's mostly the roof down halfway, where in this case you're proposing the whole siding to be metal. That is, to this one I would be standing at where it's two different things. Where this would be more, 316 would be more acceptable because it's mimicking the whole roof line, whereas this one is the entire siding. That's where the issue is at.
Madam Chair, in the spirit of being helpful in your discussion, if the members of this commission are struggling with whether the application as presented, whether the elements are congruous or incongruous with the district, perhaps this is a moment to pause. It sounds like the applicant is considering or is open to modifying the application in some way to better satisfy these members and better fit in with our guidelines. So it might be appropriate for you all to consider whether you would continue this application to the July meeting, or if this is an issue that you can resolve tonight, you certainly can resolve it tonight.
I hope we can resolve it tonight. Months and months go by with these processes, and we would like to move forward with this project. So I'm open to hearing the commission's, I heard Mr. Bryant clearly at the design review who expressed those points of view. So
Would you consider a wood lap siding?
absolutely.
To move forward?
Would you consider hardy board?
We do hardy board.
Well, do we do it on an addition?
Would you do hardy board?
No, we don't do it on an addition. We do hardy board on new construction.
We can't do hardy board on it?
What? It's not a contributing.
Well,
We're kind of,
Select materials that are consistent with the structure, 3.2.1. Limit the palette to those materials that were available at the time the building was originally constructed.
right. Hardy
So-
board was not available at the time.
So
I understand. Metal was, hardy
I'm
board
pretty good
wasn't. It makes no sense to me,
I'm not too good
but-
at solving problems, but I'm pretty good at muddying the waters.
okay.
So under masonry guideline 5.1.5, under normal circumstances, that guideline would dictate that a veneer of brick, stucco, or other appropriate material be applied over concrete masonry units.
Right.
So I just
Where you at?
mentioned that
Say that again, which guideline?
5.1.5. So, on one hand, I appreciate, the consistency of deriving the material from the original structure. I get a little uncomfortable making the leap in this case to requiring something that we usually wouldn't allow.
Yeah.
It's a little contradictory in my thinking.
Right.
So again, that's why I keep coming back to the simplicity of the building,
Right.
and it being
It
more
says
of
or
a,
other appropriate material.
and being more akin to an accessory structure than a primary, it is a primary structure in this case, but it's really more akin to an accessory structure where maybe we see some of the things that the applicant is proposing more often.
So can you go over what those materials are that you just read about? You said masonry.
Well, under normal circumstances, if we were to build a new masonry wall, guideline 5.1.5 would require a concrete masonry unit to be faced with a veneer of brick, stucco, or other appropriate material.
The point
Whatever that
being,
is.
we cover it with something.
Yeah.
It's
That's the point,
not
is that we
intended to be
would cover
finished
it.
material.
I understand that. I understand that.
But my concern about the metal is the difference for one, but when I look at the metal siding on the building that you cite, I see us allowing the construction of in the near future, a third world construction here, a metal, rusty old metal, and I cannot agree to that. If we come up with a modern material that will make that building
I guess we were talking about clapboard siding.
look well in the future, yeah.
So I'm lost. Is hardy board on or off the table?
Off the table.
I think hardy board is off the table.
But clapboard siding would be a similar
Wood siding.
application.
Seems like what you could get
Wood siding.
tonight.
Wood siding?
Seems like it. See what the vote
Oh,
is.
I'm not gonna wait another month, so am I hearing that wood siding is appropriate? Which was certainly used in this district all day long,
Yeah.
correct?
That'd be my interpretation.
But
I
I
don't know about
hope this
others.
commission can
I
hear
do
clearly
layers,
the
anything but metal.
confusion from citizens who are not as knowledgeable
So-
as all of you in
Oh.
understanding these issues, and I've not been before this commission in
So-
probably a decade. So I don't understand a lot of these issues, and particularly in the redevelopment area where I would, well, most of it is not even in your purview. It is going to be a totally different deal. Across the street, it's a totally different deal. You have one of the oldest structures in this city to be preserved that is not in the district, Mr. Carter's home. But
So,
it
Ms.
is
Kathy,
confusing to me. I just want
I got you.
to, I hope you understand the
look,
puzzlement of those of us in the public who see 70 years of a material that was used, not in a third world country, but in a very, in the center of this city, in the city laundry, now not being able to be used. A material that is obviously something that for 50 years, a metal will last longer than I
We
will
can
on the
change the
planet.
future, but we can't change the past.
Exactly, but here we are in,
So Kathy,
In
but
discussion.
you are interested in having some sort of approval tonight?
I am, and I will
So
live with
that doesn't mean
siding.
you can't come back
So-
with a different applicant, or you
I
can come
understand.
back and
So
change
what I'm
you
hearing
want.
is that what we propose, not with metal siding, but with wood siding, is going to,
We have to
I
see
mean,
what the
this
vote
is
is.
for this commission to continue to discuss, I guess. Is that,
well, I can't speak for anybody
No,
else,
I know,
but
you haven't
I'm
voted.
okay
you okay with that?
with that. You might want to ask that fella down there. He's the one who's got some questions.
I'm okay with that.
He might be okay. Yeah, it doesn't preclude you from using pressure-treated wood, by the way, since you're going to paint it or stain it anyhow. So that might solve some of your other problems you're thinking about.
Mhm. Okay, so we can make it a proposal with a different material as a condition of this project. That's how we can move forward, and you're sure you want to do that tonight? Because we're not pressuring you to do that. We can continue it.
I'm not going to continue to have the same
Okay, so that's,
conversation.
so I just want to make it clear that that's your decision
understand that,
to do that.
Dr.
So,
Cox, I
and not
understand
ours,
that.
'cause we can continue
I need
it
to
for
move
you to
forward on a
have
project.
more thought to it. But if you don't want to do that, we can move forward.
I did not.
So the material that we are suggesting is wood siding with pressured wood?
Well,
That would be
It's her
painted?
choice.
Yeah, clapper,
Whatever
wood
kind
siding.
of wood, it's
So
a
clapboard wood
right?
siding that will be painted. Okay, so that's what we come to, we're happy with that.
And
Okay.
Madam Chair, just as a point of clarity, is
Yes.
the applicant amending her application to include the wood clapboard siding as the exterior cover for the structure?
I believe that is what you're saying, agreeing to.
Whatever is legally appropriate, we would amend for council.
So that is what you're agreeing to,
Absolutely.
okay? All right, so we're all clear, and whoever's going to make the proposal will have to identify the change in the materials of the siding. We're all clear on that to go forward? Anybody? Not. I don't hear any word. So who would like to make the proposal with that as a condition?
So I move that we find the application for 318 Liberty Street for a certificate of appropriateness not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinances, Section 15411 to 15429, and New Bern Historic District Guidelines, based on the following guidelines and findings of fact. Design principles 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3.1.4, and 3.1.5. Modifications 3.2.1, 3.2.2. Additions 3.3.1, 3.3.2, 3.3.3. Walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4, and coincidentally, that speaks of the wood trims and siding that we have amended tonight in the application. Wood doors, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.2.
Keep
Yeah.
going,
Wood,
basically.
5.2.1, 5.2.2, paint, 5.4.2, 5.4.3, and 5.4.4. And statement of reason being the project is located in a tight weave development pattern. Being in addition, we're carrying over some of the basic forms that are present on the existing building, particularly the eaves and overhangs. Let's see. Proposes small one storage. The design components and materials, as amended, meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly. And then lastly, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
With the condition that? Talk about
Well,
wood siding.
My understanding is the application is amended to already include the wood siding and guideline as referenced in 4.2.4.
Okay, we've got that?
Yes, ma'am.
We're okay with
Checks
that?
all the boxes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that checks all our boxes. Okay.
I'll second that.
You're going to second that, okay? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, it passed. Can I have a motion to issue a COA?
So moved.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none, the motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is 101 King Street.
Yes. So here is the application for 101 King Street for Ward and Sarah Zimmerman. This is a proposal to demolish the existing non-contributing house and replace it with a modern house. And here they have their list of various guidelines and a few of the materials listed there. Then all the various checkboxes, signature and date of their designated representative, who is hereby authorized on this form to represent them. So they begin with an introductory letter where they indicate, first of all, in the first paragraph here, about the floodplain issues, and then they discuss some of the various guidelines under design principles first, and then secondly, for infill construction. And then they also discuss two of the other issues about the garage and also some of the tight weave development pattern issues as well. So, now I have to go to the small, there we go. This first page of the drawings shows the existing house that is to be demolished. And some more photographs of that. The lower right has an aerial showing not only the house itself, but some of the neighboring buildings as well. Neighboring homes. The upper left is now a straight down aerial showing in the upper center portion is the existing, the subject property, and then some of the other properties here as well. I'm not sure what the numbers mean there, but then these are views down the street. First of all, down King Street in the upper center picture, down King Street towards the river. I'm going to actually zoom in on these because they're not that helpful if you can't really see them. Okay, so coming down King Street, and there was previously mention about the pump station that's actually dead center on the end of the street, which now you can see in this view here in the upper right, with the house, the subject house on the right. So now going down, let's see, I'm going to go to the left first. So directly across the street from the subject house is the rear yards, the rear property lines of the houses along East Front Street, and this is a garage for one of them. That will be subject of another application tonight. Farther down the street is another driveway and garage off of Edgerton. And then lastly, all the way to the left, or to the south, I guess that is this last also freestanding structure that's also a carport. So then we have some views of some of the adjacent homes. So this photo on the upper right is the one at 600 Edgerton, recently constructed there at the opposite end of Edgerton. The next one to the left on Edgerton, or to the north, is 606 Edgerton, and this is essentially all you see from the street. And showing the attached garage there. Then at 630, the third house over and the direct neighbor to the subject property is 630 Edgerton, and here we also see that house, and including its attached double garage. So some other properties that they mention are this one at the base of Pollock Street, right at the river. This is also subject to the flooding and such, and so you can see how the living areas begin at the upper level, or the second floor essentially, not at ground level, and the ground level uses attached parking. 516 East Front Street also has some attached garage parking here, and 216 Johnson Street, so 516 East Front Street, can't remember, does that one's probably in the floodplain. Don't think 216 Johnson Street is, so that explains why the first two on the left are elevated, whereas this one is attached to the side. Of course, all of those were constructed before the guidelines. Some more that we're looking at, some examples. This house has essentially a section of flat roof. Can't tell if the rest is or not. but
That's not true, those garages were done in the last couple of years. Just
Uh,
clarify that.
okay, so which ones were done in the last couple of years?
Go back down the second page, that one on the right, 516, that's an addition and raising of that house on East Front Street. And then 216, it was approved to enclose open carports with garage.
Yes, so, yes, that's correct. This was open carports that were there before, and so it was approved to add the garage doors.
And
The structure was there
516
before.
raised.
This whole house was raised?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay, this is, I got you, which one? What do they call that house? The Bell House, that's correct. So interesting. But that would have been at least 3 or 4 years ago that that was approved,
2.
because it was not while I was here. So that's 2.5 to 3 years. But nevertheless, that would have been during the current edition of your guidelines.
And our chair.
Okay. So then on this one, also apparently flat roof, or it seems to be flat roof, certainly on the right side, I believe. But also the scale and mass is what they're pointing out on this, as well as the scale and mass on this, and flat roof, it seems, on that one. So, some more historic homes with flat roof on this one on the left. Stucco exterior. I believe even the coins on the corners are stucco, correct?
I think those are actually wood,
Oh,
to be honest with you. But
Okay.
the one on Broad Street is mostly stucco over, I believe, concrete, where the previous one is over wood.
all right, okay. I'm sorry, next comments, please. Go to the microphone so we can make sure everyone hears this. So, and then lastly, here we have a somewhat modern design treatment on this house here, especially with these horizontal corner windows on Linden Street.
Which in fairness was not approved by the commission. That wasn't, in fairness, that wasn't approved by the commission. And it was, that's, in fairness, that wasn't. Okay.
Okay. All right, so on this page, we're looking at the new plan for the site. So you can see the property is relatively narrow and deep, with concrete bulkhead at the back, but then an area of where the bulkhead has ended and a rock jetty continues out. So there's some water area on the property, correct? However, is the property line the dash line? This dash line?
I think that's
From-
I believe that's a camera line, the one, that dash line that you're looking at right
Because
there.
I think it shows lot lines per the subdivision map, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't.
Their property line does include that bulkhead.
And I remember the subdivision was done like in the 50s or the 40s or something, so quite a ways back. And it could be even that additional land was added at some point.
And, you know, those dash lines, just like on the Hicks property, they also had 4 lots, and this has 4 lots. I mean, they're not really lots, you couldn't build on them, but 14, 15, 16, 17. So it looks like some sort of internal line to whatever surveyor did there. But their
Mhm.
property is that around the bulkhead.
Okay. And the 5-foot setback is clear here at the most narrow spot, and obviously very clear on the right. So this is the floor plan for the ground level, and there was some discussion earlier about the entrance door, and there's a stairway immediately to the right of the entrance door, and also an elevator. And then on the back, some sliding doors, but for the most part, everything is solid walls. Then the main floor has, as far as we're concerned, a balcony on the front, 2 windows on the front, and a series of sliding glass doors, and a porch on the back with a lap pool and a glass rail. There is 2 windows on this left side and 1 tiny window on the right side. So the second living floor has a larger balcony on the front, first with a glass rail on the front of the right-hand side, this narrow portion, but then I believe a knee wall essentially for the railing, or a solid rail for the balcony on the left here. And the back of the house has this very large wide porch with glass rail. That porch is narrower than the one below it, which you see then is the other rectangle here. There are more windows here on the left side, on the front, and then also then just a tiny window on the right for the stairwell. And then the roof level actually has, not roof, the top floor, I guess, has a mechanical room up here with double doors and a patio out onto the roof of the left side of the building. And there's also a patio on the right corner as well. What you see here is the balcony below, as well as the deck and such. No, there is an upper deck here, correct?
No.
Oh, these are just windows.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. All right, so here we have some renderings of the design. Some changes since the design review meeting, and we'll probably end up talking about some of these. So let's go on to the next one. We know those are there. Here's a more photorealistic rendering. Okay. 2 of them. These are the elevations on the left, and then some material samples on the right. And then the left and right elevations. So you can see the large deck balconies out the back on both of these. So this would be the south elevation, and this would be the north elevation. The north elevation then facing the pump station essentially has more windows than the one facing the neighbor. And then the rear elevation with the large long decks and a sample of what the railing would look like. And finally then, this is an actual plan of the existing house, and then the elevation certificate information here first shows some photos and some of the rest of the information to indicate what the actual ground level is above sea level, as well as the existing first floor of the building. So we have, let me just zoom in here so I can read this. The zoning and inspections report for 101 King Street. That the zoning administrator says it meets the requirements of the land use ordinance, and the chief building inspector, of course, that it will require a building permit. Okay, so then I'm ready for findings and recommendations when you are.
Okay. Are there any conflicts of interest with this proposal?
Yes, ma'am.
Any, you do?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So can I have a motion to remove him from our board for the moment?
Madam Chair, the member would need to state the nature of his conflict.
Okay.
Well, the state of, as you know, I'm a realtor, and I have been inside of 101 King Street when it was on the market with one of my buyers. And there's also a document that was distributed, or it is in existence, that is missing out of the files that I'm aware of. So therefore, I'm a conflict of interest.
Okay?
It sounds like, Madam Chair, that Mr. Bryant has extrinsic evidence that he's been privy to that will impact his ability to hear the evidence tonight and base his decision solely on the evidence presented. Is that correct, Mr. Bryant? So that would be a conflict.
That would be a conflict. Do I have a motion to have him removed?
So moved.
So moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
Have a second here. Okay, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. If you could have a seat out in the audience, honey, for the time being. Thank you for letting us know that. Okay. All right, so does the applicant or the representative have any other information you want to share at this time?
Yes, the owners have secured signatures from all the neighbors within 100 feet saying that they are in favor of the property. And Mr. Shelley indicated that we would be allowed to add this to our application tonight. So I'd like to add that. And also some renderings came in a little bit late that show the top roof just slightly different. So I printed them out and would want to include those as well. So
Okay, you can give that information to him, and then he can pass out
Thank
the
you.
renderings that you want us to have when we come to that. Okay? So, in the audience, are there any notified proponents of this proposal?
Just one copy.
In the audience, are there any notified opponents of this proposal? Seeing none for either. Is there anybody in the audience with relevant evidence and standing that would like to speak about this project? Seeing none. Is there anybody in the audience that is from any state, city, or government body that would like to speak? Hearing none. So we don't have any rebuttals for any of that. So, sir, would you like to tell us the staff findings?
Sure.
They're different.
Okay, so these are the findings and recommendations for Ford and Sarah Zimmerman for their project at 101 King Street. The historic property name is not applicable. It is a non-contributing structure, and so there is nothing in the inventory nor sandbag. So the project is for 101 King Street to include demolishing the existing non-contributing house and replacing it with a new infill house. So staff submits the following historic district guidelines are appropriate to this application, which consists of 2 deliberations, demolition and new infill. So for deliberation 1, for demolition, the appropriate guidelines are 6.4.1 and 6.4.3. There is also a statement in the guidelines that in rendering a decision on demolition COA, the HPC should address the following 3 considerations. I note that these were probably written with reference to contributing structures, so we may have to be a little understanding in the phrasing of the questions. First, consideration 1, to address the historical, cultural, and architectural significance of the structure. Is it a contributing structure? We've already established no. Is it significant because of its historic use and event, a person, a builder, or an architect? Is it the last or the boldest example of a certain building type? Consideration 2, address the integrity of the structure. What are the conditions of the foundations, floors, walls, windows, doors, and roofs? And is it a hazard to public health, safety, and welfare? Again, this may be in the context of expecting this to have been a contributing structure and whether or not it's relevant to remove an existing contributing structure. Remember, this is a non-contributing structure. And to point out, as is pointed out in guideline above, 6.4.1, demolition of a non-contributing structure shall not be denied by the HPC. 3, consideration 3, address attempted preservation efforts. So obviously has some reference to contributing resources, but the questions are, have options for rehabilitation been explored with preservation organizations? Has the applicant been unsuccessful in seeking alternatives to demolition? And have alternatives for structure relocation and sale of the property been pursued? So having presented all of those, you may just want to consider whether or not these are indeed relevant at all and should be waived, in essence, in the process. And so for this portion, the demolition portion, I have statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are: 1, the project is a proposal to demolish a non-contributing resource. The applicant is proposing a new house for the property, however, the design of which will need to be approved by the HPC. 3, the zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 4, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So the motion for deliberation 1, we recommend the commission approve this application to include demolition of a non-contributing structure. However, demolition may not proceed until the design of the replacement structure is approved by the HPC and a COA issued for the replacement. And so deliberation 2 for the new infill house, development pattern 2.1.1, 2, and 3, utilities 2.3.1 and 2, design principles 3.1.1, 2, 3, and 4, for infill construction 3.4.1, 2, 3, and 4, for foundations 4.1.4 and 6, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4, entrances 4.4.4, masonry 5.1.5, metals 5.3.3 and 4, paint 5.4.2, 3, and 4. And statements of reason for this are based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment. R1, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. The proposal is an infill project. Proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So the motion we recommend for deliberation 2 is the commission to approve the application for a new infill house for the following conditions. The building permit shall not be issued until a COA is issued for exterior utility work. And that concludes my report, or my recommendations.
Okay. So okay. So, are there any other final comments you would like to make at this point in time?
Yes, ma'am. Under demolition 6.4 in the paragraph, the second paragraph, it says demolition cannot be denied for a non-contributing structure. Demolition of a contributing structure requires a 2-part COA where the demolition is first considered and then, if allowed, followed by consideration of the redevelopment plan.
Yes.
And so in this case, we don't believe that it needs a 2-part, there's not a 2-part to it, it's only a demolition and then the new construction. So I just want to point that out as when you say that the approved structure has to be approved before demolition begins, I just don't believe that that's what your guidelines state.
Yes, it is what our guidelines state. If you're going to demolish a house, then you also have to show what you're going to put in its place.
It's just that
It's part of our demolition guidelines.
For contributing structure.
For a
This is a
contributing
non-contributing
structure, but this paragraph clearly lays out that for a non-contributing structure, that's not the case. I don't think it's a big deal, but I just want to point that out because I don't believe that that's part of what we are here tonight to do. And we've not talked about it in the 3 times that we've been to design review. So, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so, commissioners, do you have questions that you would like to ask at this point in time?
Could I see the rendering, please?
Yes.
So- Go ahead.
Did it pass down?
So, do we need to first go through the demolition questions? Well, I know what your staff has said. Do we need to do this in a particular order to go through that first, of the demolition part, and have a discussion about that?
I would think so,
Okay,
because you don't have an infill if you don't have demolition.
right, okay. So this is deliberation number 1 over the demolition. So let us start there with there are 3 considerations, and we
Madam
need,
Chair, there's not 3, is it a contributing structure? No.
No, wait,
It's
I'm
not.
going to step in. The statement in the guidelines does not stipulate that this is restricted to contributing structures. It just says any demolition COA, quote, in rendering a decision on a demolition COA, the HPC should address the following 3 considerations. You can still decide that it's not appropriate in this case and waive whatever you want.
But how is 6.4.1 says demolition of a non-contributing structure shall not be denied?
That doesn't matter. You can still ask these questions and consider the questions, but then end up not denying it. I mean, it's,
but this is part of the procedure to demolish a house,
right.
whether it's contributing or not. Okay? So we've got consideration 1, 2, and 3. So consideration 1, address the historical, cultural, and architectural significance of the structure. So is it a contributing structure? We've already established it is not. Okay? Is it significant because of historic use, an event, a person, a builder, or an architect? Do we have any information about that?
If it was significant, it'd be a contributing structure.
Not necessarily,
Yes, it
but it just depends why it would be significant.
Well, then it would be a contributing structure if it was significant.
Okay, so my question was, does anybody have any information about the historic use, an event, a person, a builder, or an architect that we could use for that question? So we don't have any information on that. Is it the last or the oldest example of a certain building type?
No.
So we have, it's not the oldest or not the last, okay?
That's correct.
Consideration 2, address the integrity of the structure. What are the conditions of the foundations, floors, walls, windows, doors, and roofs? Okay, who would like to speak to that?
Yes, Sarah, in your pictures that you showed up, you actually showed a drawing with a second window. You changed the styling of the window up over the garage. Now, which is correct?
Okay, so wait a minute, we're on the house that's
On
there.
the demolition.
Oh, we're still working on
So
it.
we're on the house that's there, so we're not just there yet.
Okay.
I can say to this part that we're talking about right now that.
No, just hold on, we need to stick to where
Yeah.
we are.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh,
That I viewed the property and the second floor is uninhabitable. I didn't realize that we should have brought that information because we had never spoken about doing this portion of the guideline before, but I could have brought you photos of holes in the floor, the ceiling falling down, the carpet covering up major holes in the floor. So I just didn't know that we needed that.
okay. Does anybody have any other information about this? Did you go down there and look at it?
I looked at the outside.
Okay, did you have anything to add from the outside perspective?
No, my assumption was since it was non-contributing, it didn't matter
Okay.
what kind of integrity.
Okay.
And also,
Structure,
Madam Chair,
right.
the only evidence that you can consider tonight is the sworn evidence contained in tonight's hearing.
Okay. All right, is a hazard to public health, safety, or welfare? So it's not falling down on anybody. It doesn't have pieces that are falling onto other people's property. We've had that before. We had that on a house up that way. So it's not a safety issue, all right? Not a welfare issue. Okay, so consideration 3, address attempted preservation efforts. Have options for rehabilitation been explored with preservation organizations? I've not heard anything about that. You all haven't contacted the preservation organization here in town?
Right.
Just go up to the microphone and say no.
No, ma'am, we have not.
Okay, that's the answer to your question. Okay. Has the applicant been unsuccessful in seeking alternatives to demolition?
Yes,
Somebody saying yes?
apparently because they want to tear it down and build a new house. He's successful.
Well, but this is alternatives to demolition, not want to tear it down and build new.
The way that I read the application, in the very first paragraph,
Uh-huh,
was a review of the rationale for the demolition,
uh-huh.
and that's what we're reviewing tonight.
Mhm. Okay, so the answer to this question is no,
That's right.
right? That's the answer to this question. So you have not. Have alternatives for structure, relocation, or sale of the property been pursued?
No.
And so the answer to that is no. Okay? So then we have the statement of reason, and can you go down a little bit further? Okay. There's the statement of reasons, and then here's the staff's recommendations for this, which is to approve this application to include demolition of a non-constricting structure. However, demolition may not proceed until the design of the replacement structure is approved by the HPC and a COA issued for the replacement. Okay, does anybody have any issues with that?
The only issue I have is, I'm thinking of the building on East Front Street, the concrete block building, and we couldn't tear it down because it was there a long time,
Contributing.
although you couldn't do anything with it,
It's contributing.
Who was contributing?
This is different.
so it was considered contributing.
Yes.
You're talking about the house down here?
Yeah, on
No.
the left going out on East Front Street.
It's across
The
the
one,
street.
the one across from Queens Point.
Okay, okay, all right. Okay, so can we go to demolition, the demolition 2 part? Can you scroll down a little bit?
Do we need to,
Why don't we do a motion
Yes.
to allow demolition, and then we could do the new house.
condition on the new house?
Well, don't we have to approve the new house before we can approve for the demolition? Is that,
No.
okay?
No.
No?
So you just don't issue the COA for the demolition until you have approved the replacement, and then you issue the COA then too.
Okay, so
For the
we can make a motion for the demolition,
Mhm.
right?
We're just going through the exercises that would normally occur in all demolition cases, so.
Yes, I do understand that.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, I've got you.
No, I'm explaining it to others why in the world it's going this way,
I understand.
but yeah.
Okay. So we'll make a motion for that, and then we'll go to looking at the new infill house.
Mhm.
That'll be our next part of this. Okay, so does someone want to make a motion?
Can we have a conversation? We haven't had
Questions.
questions amongst us. You didn't ask for questions. I have a question.
Okay.
Question on the demolition?
Yes,
On the demolition?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
So to make sure for you all, thank you for going and reaching out to the adjacent property owners. And maybe this is even a question on the infill side. But they know this house is coming down, and they know what you're building. I'm just gonna say, I've been down this road. Okay.
Is this gentleman sworn?
Okay, you're gonna have, did you get sworn in earlier?
I did,
Okay.
and I do realize I'm under oath, and so this is not hearsay. I'm the one who collected the signatures.
Okay, no, I appreciate that.
My opinion of what was told to me universally on everyone on Edgerton Street,
Right,
everyone within 100 feet of our property,
okay.
was that they were very happy to have this structure removed. And they all, basically their signatures went on this, which is as straightforward as you can get.
Perfect.
And then actually generated a bit of excitement, and several of them asked for the full packet, which wasn't complete at the time with these last renderings.
All right.
And since then, we've received several great, we've got good suggestions, we'd like to do the following. Again, under oath, very positive response. People want something done.
I mean, this is just based on experience and your own benefit that everybody knows and understands. You may not make the time to come to a meeting, but for your own benefit, make sure everybody understands what you're
I could not agree more. We moved here to make friends.
Perfect. That's right, exactly.
We happen to love the
Good.
setting. And by the way, that's something that's been lost in this. This is, the house, it would be financially easier for me to renovate if there was something I could renovate. And I'm pretty clever on that, but I can't come up with it. The setting is great. And Peggy, we're only going to be taking one tree down in order to save 5 other substantial trees, which are substantial in that neighborhood. And the one we're taking down, I've been told by an arborist, isn't going to make it anyway. We're going to lose a tree, but it has nothing to do with us. It has to do with the city utilities. But that has a lot to do with what we're trying to do. And again, the setting is what is lost in these renderings. If you're actually in the backyard, it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Okay, so you gave us some letters from your neighbors, and you have those. Can you let us have a look at those?
I handed those
Yes.
to you with the rendering.
I understand that.
No,
I understand that.
I did
I
not
know you
understand
did.
these were to be circulated.
But we haven't seen those. So that was, we haven't seen those. You need to look at them. Have you looked at them? No? Okay, so these are from 612 East Front Street, 620 East Front Street, 611 East Front Street, 616 East Front Street, 630 East Front Street, this is from 600 Edgerton Drive, which is the street that the house is on. This is from 606 Edgerton. Okay, and each of these documents has a statement that says, we plan to demolish the existing non-contributing house at 101 King Street and replace it with a new infill house. And each one of these signatures, then there's a statement that says support for the proposal. And that is where each of these persons that I have identified have signed under that support for the proposal. Okay, now is there anything else that needs any discussion at this point in time? Anybody else got anything? Okay, so would then somebody like to make a motion? We've looked at the demolition part. Would somebody like to make a motion for the demolition of this house?
I move to find the application for
101 King
101 King Street to be not incongruous with Newbern's Code of Ordinance Sections 15.411-15.429 and Newbern's Historic District Guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Demolition 6.4.1, demolition of a non-contributing structure shall not be denied by the Historic Preservation Commission. 6.4.3, the Historic Preservation Commission reserves the right to postpone demolition until development and building permits are approved for redevelopment plans. Is that all I need? Findings of fact.
Findings of fact.
Okay, so findings of fact, the project is a proposal to demolish a non-contributing structure. The applicant is proposing a new house for the property, however, the design of which will need to be approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. The zoning administrator and the chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with historic district guidelines.
Okay,
Second.
We have a second? Okay.
Yep.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, hearing none, the motion passed for the demolition of the house. Okay? So now let us go to part 2 of the demolition. Just give him a minute
The
to
infill.
write down something.
So I did go over this, right, so.
You-
Yes, I did go over that. So it's up to you to discuss.
Okay? So if you go up to the top, so does anybody have any issues with the development pattern that you want to change from what's written here?
You want to follow the normal process, ask for public input on that stuff, and then we're going to have a board discussion?
Well, there,
Oh, we've had the discussion already?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
I did ask
okay.
if there were proponents.
Okay.
I've asked
Okay.
all of that, and nobody, is there anybody out in the audience that's in any of those groups?
I just have one question. At the design review, it appeared to me that the same picture that we're looking at tonight is...
Can you hold on a minute can you hold on to that question so we can get through this part?
Well, I don't understand what we're doing then.
For some reason, I can't hear you well.
Not sure if anybody else
This
out
is
there's
for the
got
new-
anything to say.
This is stuff for the new infill house.
So we'll now deliberate on the infill.
I think
Proposal.
Ruth is trying to go through in order of what is written in
Okay.
specifically in that. I know you have, I know a couple of you have questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I
And we're
think
gonna-
she's
and
trying to go in order of
Yes,
what's written. on
and
the
we're
page.
gonna get there. Yes, we're not there yet, so that's why I
Okay.
said, hold on to your question.
Okay.
We're gonna get there.
Yep.
Okay. Because this is, let me say again, as Matt said, this is the order of what we have to do for our demolition of a property. Okay? And so that's what I'm trying to guide, that's what is I'm guiding us through. All right. So for the development pattern, is there any discussion that you want, anyone on the commission wants to make about that?
I think only to confirm that we've got a structure in the tight weave development pattern, and it appears to be situated as similar structures on the river along Edgerton.
Okay. Do you identify that at the end of your conclusions? Because I can't see the end of your conclusions. Do you identify it as being in that pattern?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, tight weave.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, so go back up. All right. Utilities, anybody, anything about that? Okay. Design principles? Does anybody have anything about that?
A question.
Is this the time when you want us to ask questions? You have to tell me, because I'm confused.
Say that again.
When is it appropriate for us to ask questions usually?
If you have a question, you could ask it now, I think,
About design?
about design. That's why I'm going through this item by item by item,
Okay.
yes?
Would you like to go first?
My question was
Okay.
about design.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So now you can ask your question as we go through
Cool.
this. Go ahead.
The picture you showed at design review looks the same as the picture that's in there tonight. And there were some suggestions made there, I made one of them, I remember, that would have made the structure pick up some of the similarities in architecture from the surrounding buildings. I don't see any of those suggestions were used.
So what we did do, we went back and discussed it, and, my job as architect is to try and take the wishes and desires of the owner and, put them together with the guidelines and
Yeah.
come up with a product. And, what happened?
Oh,
What we did do was, in order to make a gesture for more shadow lines, we've taken a series of inset brick and stucco on the structure to start to create more of a shadow line definition, outline, columned look, instead of placing an actual column in that corner, which was not something that we felt the modern structure really, when you think about being of its time, putting the column on that corner was not something that we really felt was appropriate. And so that's why we added the shadow lines.
Could you point out where you did that?
If you can see around the garage, maybe Matt could show with his
It's like
mouse.
an inset.
Yeah, it's inset in the brick pattern on both sides and in the stucco up above, so that, next to the entry, you get a relief of a, we're calling it like a modern column. It's not a real column, but it's just the beginnings of here is a nod towards something that could have been a column, but in the modern structure, keeping it as minimal as possible. So,
Well, my specific suggestion, as it were, was to do something along the lines, understanding that they're not eaves, but to give them some of the appearance of eaves, which all of those buildings you had as examples had. Was that discussed and rejected? And
what we did do was, we took that same brick detail that is above the doors and windows and removed the metal from above any of the brick, so that the brick structure itself will be entirely shown as a brick structure, and that edge detail at the roof has a kind of a two-part brick relief to it, so that it gives it just a little bit more of a shadow line up there than an actual, because that's a parapet wall, and to put an eave on a parapet wall like that is, it's not something I've ever done or seen. I understand the idea that, wanting to, make the flat roof like the one that's tall, but in this case, those are parapets, and, it's kind of like it's the edge of a balcony, so,
you tried, but this is where you ended up. I got it. Yeah, okay.
Right.
I got it.
So
Exactly.
it appears to be somewhat corbelled. You can see the shadow lines on this left side here.
Right.
Could those be beefed up, Sarah? So that the shadow line is, or make it even doubled,
I honestly, I drew out, I had a detail from actually from the townhouses on the corner. I looked at what we had done down there, and down there was kind of a 4-part brick massive structure. I actually took that and put it on here, and it's not appropriate. This structure by its design is linear, and and by the wishes of the owner is very linear, and what we tried to do was show that in a minimal way, but I put that heavy brick double row lock with another, I did a soldier and a row lock, or 2 row locks beneath, I think is what the townhouses have, and it's just not appropriate. It looks out of place. It looks like, you're trying to do something that's not there.
Are you done with your questions?
Yeah.
I don't want to step in.
Okay.
So let's talk about the entrance.
Yeah. And maybe the other rendering shows it a little bit more directly on, or even the other renderings, I think may.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I see a plan now.
These?
Yeah, the idea was that, it's a 0 entry, so that, they didn't want, for wheelchair access, they wanted 0 entry, sidewalk right up to the front door, leads into, the building right there, so that you've got a light and a door and, planter that, from anyone walking down the street would, in my mind, see the door, see the light, see that that's got a sidewalk leading right up to it.
So between the ones that we're looking at on screen and then these renderings,
Yeah.
the on screen has a more defined look. Is that the rendering that does that, or is this a washout?
And that's where the actual, what you are approving, you know, is the line drawings from my, you know, from the drawing set. Renderings, as you know, are impressions of what the building is. You know, that line weight does show up as darker. The reality is, do bricks show an outline of that intensity? Not necessarily. And that's why, you know, we tried to do, the photorealistic rendering was not done by me, but by another group, but to try and give you a blend of, here are 3 different views of that property on the front. There's a line drawing and there's 2 renderings. One I did, one another group did, and you can, from those, kind of gather to me what the building will appear to be. You know, shadow lines at a particular part of day will show more or less. You know, I put a 1-inch inset brick in the stucco and the brick. Could it be more? Yeah, it could be more. Is it going to make it that different? Not. I mean, to me, not necessarily.
I just wanted to know what I'm approving. That's why I was asking that question. I wanted to know if the design that we're seeing on the screen is really what it looks like, or is this just picture blown out by the lighting, and so I'm not seeing the definition, or is that not realistic? So
I think that picture is a little washed out, the reality, and that's why, you know, I mean, it's hard for me to say, yes, exactly, you know, to me, is that what it looks like? Yes, that's what it looks like. Is the other rendering what it looks like? Yes, that's also what it looks like. It's just, you know, you've got 3 different things that you're looking at.
So actually the one on the screen at the moment is the same one that I'm looking at here.
The only difference is the top roof is a little bit different. It doesn't overhang as much as that one is
Which
showing.
one's, this is the one, the paper one is the one that you, like, that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's on the screen is different?
No, these are the same right now.
These are
But
the same.
there is another rendering that when we were talking earlier, I was referring to.
That's kind of the drawing.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, it might have been that one. But it looks like it's a white stucco with a gray brick. And what I'm asking, is it just because that's the rendering, or is it going to be color changes? All the same?
The
All the same.
owner's intent is to do a light colored stucco and brick.
Okay.
That has not been 100% chosen,
That's just,
but that's it's not to do something that's red brick, or, you know, the intent is to do light colored stucco and brick.
okay.
The back part that's kind of, the color's all the same, that's stucco, and the front is brick. That's,
Yes.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, Sarah, 2 of the things that you showed earlier that we were concerned about was the front door,
Yeah,
which you haven't done anything to it, except put a potted plant there. And then the second one was to balance that window on the 2nd floor over the garage. You showed one picture that had an identical window next to it. Did you throw that out?
what we did was we took the same window that's on the right-hand side and, well, actually, all the windows on the front now are the same size. So the 2 above the garage, and then the one on the rectangle on the right, and then the one set back on the stucco, those are all the same sized window. And so we tried to balance that out so that there wasn't, I know, it was a little confusing having a different sized window altogether on that one side.
Well, to have a second window, do you have to have it this different size, or can it not be the same size? You would still have some balance.
It's the same size.
This window was smaller before, and now they've made these all the same.
Yeah,
But
we
they
made,
haven't not put one here.
She's saying there's still
Yeah.
that blank wall without a window.
you know, and I mean, the reality is too that that wall is set much farther back, and it's not, you know, to me, it's not experienced full on ever.
This is as if you're like 15 feet up in the air looking at.
Yeah, when you're
thing, you're not
walking
gonna
by,
see
you
it.
may never, when you walk by that house or ride by it in a car, you probably will never see that window that's on that stucco wall. I mean, it's so far up in the
So
air.
you have eliminated the idea of putting a second window on that second floor over the garage?
Yeah. What we did was to even it out so that on the right-hand side and the left-hand side of the wood structure in the middle, there's a window. To make that symmetrical, on either side of the wood, there's a window up top, a window up top.
And you haven't thought of anything for the front door to make it look more like a front door? And you can forget the idea of the wheelchair because you got 2 flights of stairs in there.
Well, they have an elevator, so.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good.
Yes, absolutely. Again, that structure, when you walk by it, let's just say at night, and you've got a lit front door, it's meant to be wood, it's meant to be solid, it's meant to read as, just a front door in a wood siding.
So if you can come up and speak in the microphone, because I can't hear you.
I just wanted to address Peggy's concern, because it's mine. I spent about 8 months in a wheelchair. This is completely accessible. Once you've done that experience, you design that way from that point on. That's the reason there aren't steps up to get to that front door. That's the reason that you can go into the foyer and go directly into an elevator without any elevation change. And that's actually carried throughout the plan, but it's started here at the front door.
And as a retired physical therapist, I'm glad to hear you have an elevator.
Yeah, I am too. As someone that needed one and didn't have one.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions or concerns at this point? Okay, so some of what we talked to you about in design review you've addressed, but you've not addressed the front door with any changes that we talked about, nor those 2 windows over the garage. You're still deciding not to put a second window over the garage.
No, there are 2 windows over the garage.
They're not.
There's not.
Second
On the
Windows on the
3rd
second
floor,
Talk
there's
about over
not
the garage.
2 windows, yeah.
But I'm
And-
talking about where there's only 1 window.
Yes.
Right, so we balanced it out from the right to the left-hand side around the middle wood structure instead.
Right, but that's not what she was talking about, nor what we talked about in design
Well, we
review.
suggested a different
you know-
windows. It was a smaller window. She's made it a bigger window, and this is
We
what they're
didn't- yeah.
presenting.
We
But
didn't feel what was suggested was
Right.
appropriate.
And I'm just
So-
pointing out that that's, we
Yeah.
made some suggestions which you did not do, and there were several people that addressed the front door that you've not done anything about. Okay?
Okay.
All right? So any other questions at this point?
That just is not true. We definitely paid attention to the front door and the front door entrance. And we definitely want someone from the street to know that's the way you get into the house. And we have a sidewalk going to it that has no steps. We have a door that is 48 inches wide. It's a foyer that you step under. No one is going to have a hard time recognizing how to get into that house. Now, we've sacrificed that whole first floor because we know it's going to go underwater sometime.
Yeah.
But that was the conclusion. We also took very seriously the window, and frankly, it was your suggestion that we make them symmetrical, and when we did, it looked better.
Right.
And also, we did a foundation line, which probably I'd like to run all the way around the house, just so you know that's the foundation. We put columns on it. The columns, frankly, just didn't look good. It's personal opinion, but they didn't work. But no, we listened very hard to what people said. I think we tried them all. Now, it is true, we, out of personal taste, chose which ones to bring to you, but I'd say thank you for your suggestions.
But yet tonight, people have still addressed your front door. That's the point that I'm making, okay?
And
All right.
I'm saying
And
it's
I
a
hear
matter
what
of
you-
taste, but no, I
And
think you'll have no trouble finding
Right.
a
I
front
hear
door
what
on
you're
that
saying, but
house.
I'm just addressing what's going on with the commission and what we're discussing. Okay? All right? So, under design principles, anybody else, anything there they want to ask about? Okay? So the next one is infill construction. So anything there that anyone wants to ask any questions about or any comments about? Anybody see anything they want to discuss there? Okay. Next one is foundation. Anybody issues there? Wall trims and ordination. We've talked some about that already. Entrances, this is just a discussion that we just had. Masonry, metals. We've talked about those two different things and what parts of this house are built with what parts, with what kind of material. We've discussed that. Does anybody have any questions about that?
The only question I have is on the foundation, where are the vents and the access doors? They're not on the front of the building, so are they on the back of the building?
There are flood vents on the back of the building, and any changes, like, we're working with the engineer to make sure that the structure is within the VE zone and all of that is complete. And so if there are any changes, we would bring that back. But what you see on the front is what is on the front. We don't have any flood vents in the masonry on that front structure. We have them in the garage doors.
And having them just in the garage doors is going to do what? Let the water in?
It's gonna meet the requirements, yes.
And it's going to let the water in, but it has nowhere to go out?
In and out.
In and out,
So it's going to go in and out those garage doors,
yes,
is your plan?
And the vents in the rear, apparently.
right.
Okay. Alrighty, metals, anybody, any questions about metals? Paint, if we go on down, anything to do with paint? Matt, can you go on down past that? Okay. Then we have statements of reason. Okay. Anybody, anything they want to say about that? At this point, anybody? Okay. So there's a motion, if you could go on down so we could see the rest of the motion.
That's it.
Oh, that's it?
Yep.
That's it, okay. All right, so anybody, any other questions they want at this point in time? Yes?
I have a question. What do you mean exterior utility work? What is it that you,
It's usually the HVAC unit.
so you just need to see?
It's not shown on the plans yet, so. And we need screening and, in this case, platform and all that good stuff, so. But that can be a separate minor COA later.
All of that equipment will be on that roofed area, so none of it will be visible from below or require a platform.
Okay, good answer.
And is that clear from your drawings? Because I didn't.
Well, there was a mechanical room on the third floor, but some mechanical equipment has to be outside, so apparently that's out on that deck.
Okay.
It's on the third floor.
And do your pictures show that that's where that's going to be? Or you have that in writing? So I didn't see them.
We have a testimony.
Do you
No,
have?
it's not written out on the plan,
Okay.
but
So-
that is the homeowner's intent, and it's labeled mechanical space, and that's what it will be used for. We would like to add
Is that
that
this
to-
mechanical room you're talking about right here?
Yes,
Yes,
And that's outside?
no.
no, the portion to the left is outside, which is not seen from the street.
Okay, but do you show where the mechanical stuff, do you have any pictures that show where the mechanical stuff outside is going to be?
No, because it will not be seen.
I understand that, but that's something that we would need to know about, do we not?
Yes.
As I'm hearing the applicant, Madam Chair, it sounds like she's saying that all of the HVC components are going to be housed in that room.
Oh, I thought you said something was outside on the deck.
Some inside, some outside. Any air intake units will be out, hidden behind that parapet wall
This is a parapet
on-
wall.
on that deck area, which will not be seen from anywhere on the street.
So
Okay.
it's screened, so it
So
goes
it's
up on
screened.
top of this area here, behind that wall. Behind that wall.
Can you show that in one of your drawings that that's your intent?
You mean
Yes,
on
Okay.
yes, we can.
Okay, all right, so we know about that? Okay? Because if we have that, then it may be that this requirement that you have is not, that we don't need. That's where I'm walking to. So you don't, I'm trying to help you so that you don't have this requirement attached to you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, I'm trying to help you.
Thank you.
All right? Okay?
Question?
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll have flood insurance, Sarah. FEMA requires that with the flood insurance, a certain, have you got that in the drawing? That they require certain openings?
That's what I'm saying. We're working with the engineer right now to make sure all of that is correct. And so if there are any changes from what we have, that will be shown. What we're showing on the front of the house is as is.
Okay, so you have no openings on the front of the house?
The house is in the VE zone and is required to have some portion of the walls that can be breakaway walls, and that's the part that we're working with the engineer on. So if something is changed from what we have shown, we will bring that back to you. But we don't anticipate any changes on the front of the house. So I'm saying there might be a flood opening underneath the deck that we do need to show additionally on the rear of the house, on the water side, underneath that deck. If that kind of change is going to occur, we would absolutely bring that back to you and show you that.
Okay, so then we need to make a condition of that you haven't dealt with that in the house yet, that you're working on that.
We can absolutely bring that back.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so whoever writes this up, that will be a condition. Matt, can she just bring that back to you, or does that need to come to the full commission?
Well, it depends what they are, what the solutions are. I don't know what you can do about breakaway brick walls, but the wooden walls probably, but I don't know what's sufficient or what's required.
Okay, so do we need to state it then that those issues will be brought back to you and decided whether or not you can deal with it as a minor, or it needs to come to the full board?
That would be appropriate,
Okay.
yes.
So that's how we'll need to state that, whoever's going to make the proposal. Okay. So is that the only last thing that we need to add to this? Because you're going to change the drawing so that we see your stuff upstairs, so we can do away with this one requirement that he has. And so then the only thing that's left is for a recommendation for you to come back with the flood information. And
Madam
the-
Chair, has the applicant made an oral amendment to the application?
Have you made an oral amendment to the application?
We're happy to bring it back. It's not a big deal.
Okay, so is that good? Is that good?
As an amendment to an approved COA.
Right.
Okay? You're saying that orally, right here?
For the flood stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
For the
that.
For the HVAC?
No, for the H-
But
HVAC.
our council is
No, for the
talking about
HVAC.
issues, so we've got
I
to
mean-
bring that back?
Not the HVAC, no.
For the HVAC, if we can orally amend it to say that will be on the roof behind the parapet wall.
Yeah,
it's not seen.
yes, that's what she's asking you to
Okay.
say. That's what I just said. You're gonna
Okay.
redo the drawing to reflect that,
Okay.
so that we can take it out of his part.
I thought you were asking if we were orally amending it now, so that we don't
Yes,
have to do
That was my question.
Yes.
So, and the applicant has the prerogative to amend their application at any time.
Yes,
And if she's making an amendment here and now that the HVAC components will be housed in that particular location, that may be sufficient such that the drawings don't have to come back.
Right.
If you're okay with that, we're okay with that.
So the drawings don't have to come back, okay, if you're making that as an amendment?
Yes.
Yes, and you're orally making that as an amendment now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
so that doesn't have to come back, okay? What we do need to come back is what your flood plain
Absolutely.
information, okay, and
Yes.
we'll let you bring that back to Matt.
Okay.
Okay,
So the motion to approve the COA would be as amended.
yes, ma'am. Whoever's gonna make it, you gotta put it, we keep going here to add to it, as amended, okay? So as amended and the floodlands, okay? The floodlands have got to come back. Okay, all right? All right, is that everything at this point? Anybody, anything else they want to add or amend? Anybody? Okay.
I do think it would be lovely to finish that foundation around, if you all decide you want to do that.
So are you making that as,
What do you mean, Candace?
The
Finish it around.
architectural,
Because we have a line all the way around. Is that not what you mean, or?
in the front. I think he mentioned that he would like to do it around the entire foundation.
We do have a, kind of a row lock on the brick, and then on the stucco, we have the same that runs all the way around the foundation.
Okay,
And the,
okay, it's hard to see here.
yeah, the
Oh,
drawing on the
the-
screen might help you out.
The drawings show it, all the way around.
Okay.
yeah,
And it will create a shadow line, but they also will have plants there, so.
And we haven't talked about landscape.
what? Landscape?
Planting will absolutely come back, yes.
Yeah,
'Cause they
there's not
have-
landscape in here.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
Yeah,
It'll need to come.
no, there's no landscape in this so far. You're gonna come back with landscape. Okay, that's off the table for tonight. No landscape. Okay. Any other questions, comments anyone wants to make at this point in time? I see no from anybody. Okay. So who wants to make the proposal for this with the consideration that they have to come back regarding their flood vent
I'll do it.
structure that they're going to do?
Just have to abide with me here.
Okay.
I move to find that the applicant at 101 King will, applying for a COA to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance Sections 15.411, 15.429, and New Bern's Historic Guidelines, District Guidelines, based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact.
Can you see that?
So for,
Like bigger?
there we go. Development patterns, 2.1.1, 2.1.2, 2.1.3, utilities, 2.3.1, 2.3.2, design principles, 3.1.1, 3.1.2, 3 and 4, infill construction, 3.4.1, 2, 3, and 4, foundations, 4.1.4, 4.1.6, walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4, entrances, 4.4.4, masonry, 5.1.5, metals, 5.3.3, 5.3.4, paint, 5.4.2, 5.4.3, and 4. Findings of fact based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment. Number 1, the project is located in the tight weave development pattern. Number 2, the proposal is an infill project. Number 3, the proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. Number 4, the zoning administration and chief building officials have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And number 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. And a condition of this application would be as amended. Is that enough?
And the flood vent information?
And the applicant will return to the HPC or HPCA as necessary regarding any flooding construction.
Right,
Or
and the
flooding
applicant
limits.
will return with information regarding the flood guidelines
Information.
and information.
Okay? Right.
Second.
So we got a second. Everybody understands what it is. We got a second right here. Okay, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, hearing none.
Yeah, I oppose.
Opposed, we have one opposition, okay? And so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So, we've got
6. 6 of us left.
6, so we got 5 yeses and 1 no, so the motion passed. Okay? All righty? Okay, so the next thing is for us to call for a motion to issue a COA.
For the demolition.
We've already done the demolition, right?
Have you issued a
No.
COA for the demolition?
Yeah, but you can issue the COA for the infill, and then make sure you do issue the COA for the demolition too.
Okay, well, let's start with the demolition since we did that first. So can we have a motion for COA for the demolition of the house?
So moved.
Have a second right here.
You have a
All
motion.
of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam
Hearing
Chair,
none.
did you have a
He
second?
moved.
So they got, he did?
I think Mr. Bisbee, did you make the motion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and who was the second?
We didn't get a second. but
Second.
There you go.
Okay, Mr. Ure is the second.
Oh, sorry, okay. All right, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. It passes.
All right?
So can we have a motion to issue a COA for the new infill house?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay. Well, we had two so
Second.
moved, so whoever you want to pick. We got two so, and we got a second.
We'll
All
give it
those
a-
in favor,
Aye.
Candace.
say
Aye.
aye. All of those opposed, hearing
No.
none, the COA can
No.
be, we got one no. We got one no. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yes, 1 no, and so the motion passed for issuing a COA for the infill house.
Thank you for dealing with our input.
Okay? All right. All right, so what's left is for you to get back with Matt about the flood information, and then if you're gonna do any kind of plantings, if you're gonna take down any trees, any of that, you will have to come back and see us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We have to return Mr. Bryant?
Yes, I think I,
Oh, okay, gotcha.
okay, can I have a motion for Ms. Tony to come back?
So moved.
So we have a motion, we have a second?
Sure.
We have a second, okay? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, hearing none, come back and join us, sir.
Oh,
Okay, so 305 North Avenue has been taken off of our list for tonight and is coming back in July, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so it's gonna return in July,
Is
They've
there,
requested a continuance.
okay? Do we have to do anything on that? Do we have
Yes,
to,
ma'am.
we have to vote on that, don't we?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we vote for the approval of a continuance, is that what we're voting on?
The motion might be styled in this manner. The movement would move to continue the application for 305 North Avenue until the July regular meeting of the HPC at City Hall at 5:30.
Based on,
And it's
Based
gonna
on the
be,
applicant's unavailability.
it's gonna be on July the 20th.
July the 20th,
Yeah.
2022, in the City Hall courtroom at 5:30, based on the applicant's unavailability during the June meeting.
Could we just have that as the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so would somebody like to second her
I
motion?
Well, I can't make
I
the
make-
motion, but
I
someone
make
can
that
move
motion.
my language.
I make
Okay.
that motion.
Okay, can we move forward with her language?
So JB.
Okay,
Need a second?
and we got a second right here.
Who is the motion?
I made the motion.
Mr. Bisbee made the motion.
With her language, that's the
Yes,
motion. We
yep.
can do that, do we have a second? We got a second down here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none. Okay, so that has been moved to July the 20th. Okay, so now we've got 622 East Front Street, and then we've got 226 New Street. So where's East Front Street? Okay? There we go, okay.
That's me.
That's you?
622 East Front Street? Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about them leaving. Oh, okay. All righty. So,
I'm not sworn in, but why could you have told us about North Ave ahead of time? We've been sitting here for over 2 hours waiting for this, and we just find out it's been postponed. Now, is that fair to me?
I'm sorry.
Please. Is it fair to me? I know I'm not sworn in, but
I'll let you come and talk to Matt about that, okay? All right, if you want to.
Here, I'll give you my card.
If you want to, you can come and talk, you can come and talk to him if you'd like to,
thank you very much.
okay? All right, so 622 East Front Street is going to be our next item of business. So, sir, could you tell us about 622 East Front Street?
Sure. So here's the application for the owners, Justin and Jackie N. Sorry, I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce that. And they're proposing a new shed dormer on their garage with a deck also and stairs attached. And they have, oops, sorry, I went through. They listed the guidelines and the materials and signed and dated the rest of the application. So this is a photograph of the existing garage. We've seen that earlier this evening. The project is actually on the other side of this garage. And then the aerial for this is also shown here. The project is at the corner of King and Edgerton. And we'll see in a minute, but at least from aerial view, there is a yard area behind this garage. And the garage is here in the center of this aerial photograph. So, again, that same photo. Now we look to the right side, and then as we round, I guess, towards the back, this is now, you can begin to see the back side of the garage. As we go farther now to the other gable end. So the garage doors are off behind this tree here, right, on that side of the building. So, and maybe the flag is another indicator here. You can see on the upper right, the flag is on the far side. Now over here, the flag is on the near side. And so we're looking at the left side of the garage. And then finally, in the lower right-hand corner is the full back view of the back side of the garage, including the landscaping and the lawn and such in the back of that garage. So the project is, this is the current plan, nothing surprising there. And this is also the current elevations of the garage. So we saw the garage doors in the upper left, and then the back is the lower left on the two sides. These are the other floor plans now to show the first floor on the left with the garage. Obviously, it's still a garage. But the upper floor is being converted to be a studio apartment, and then a deck is added out the back, and steps down the left side. And then finally the roof plan, showing the new roof over the new dormer. So on the right, you see essentially the dormer, how it's projecting out over the back side of the garage. And then on the lower left is essentially the straight-on view. You can see the dormer does not take up the full width of the building. It does stop short, but it does have expansive glass, some railing for the deck. And I'm just assuming this is just shading of the existing first floor siding, correct? So there's nothing new underneath there. Just open. And then you can see on the lower right, the stairway coming down to the ground.
That side is facing the house, right, not the street? That's facing the backyard.
The stair side, yeah, it's facing the back of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the one facing the street is this one at the top, right? That's facing the street, so to say. Facing the Edgerton
It's
Street.
facing the empty yard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the edge of, yes.
Edgerton. This is facing Edgerton.
Edgerton,
Yeah.
right.
And this one is, and
And
bottom
that
left
one's
is
facing King,
King, right?
yeah.
So the part facing Edgerton is really staying the same. It's the part facing,
Basically,
the
yeah.
houses.
So what you'll see most is from King Street, so it's the bottom left one that you will be most visible, because it's through the large empty lot.
yeah.
All right, and then we have our zoning and inspections report here. So for 622 East Front Street, it does meet the requirements of the land use ordinance, and it will require a building permit. And then we're ready with, okay. Owner's authorization was submitted. Hold on. Yep. 226, right, so. Oops, that's 27, sorry. 226 East Front, no, 622.
622. What you have?
There we go. Here it is. 622 East Front for Go Architectural, and it's properly notarized. It's photographed because it came from California, I guess. And then we're looking for the recommendations. Oops. Oh, they're
That's
not in this
behind.
one. They're in one. Not that one.
Is it in the PDF that you have on the screen?
No. All of a sudden it's gone there. So, 622. I'm sorry, I think I may not have done them.
You asked if you had sent them to me,
Right,
and I said no. And then you never sent them.
right.
We could make them up right now. I've got the guidelines on the application
That's correct. Okay.
for the different sections.
So, okay, I guess we'll have to wing it with that. But we're not at that point yet, so you need to, I guess, that's the end of the summary, so you're gonna go ahead and ask if there are any people in the
I can
audience.
move forward
Yes.
with what you've got? Okay. All righty. So there's only 2 people left out in the audience, and I know one of them is for the next one, and you're for this one, but I'm going to ask. Notified opponents, notified opponents, there's nobody there. Relevant evidence and has standing, anyone? Nobody there. state, city, or government body, individuals, there's nobody there. So there's no rebuttal from any of those persons. So if you would like to tell us the staff findings.
Okay, sorry, so, 3.2 and 4.3.3, 4.5.2, 4.5.4, okay. So our findings, I guess I'll have to go to another one to get my rote. Come on, go up. There we go. So this is for the project at 622 East Front Street, for the aforementioned owners. And let's see, this structure, although the main structure is a contributing structure, this structure, the garage is not. And so,
Okay, so
there are-
what you got in front of us is 316?
No, I know, I'm using this as my template. at the
Oh,
moment.
okay, all right, sorry.
So, sorry, ignore what you see, only listen.
Only listen to your melodious voice.
Right.
All right, close your eyes, and this is gonna be like a,
So,
Matt,
yes,
I've got it. Just
okay.
go.
Well, I do have to, I think I do have to at least go through some of the rote pieces of this. So the project is for 622 East Front Street, and the guidelines that are appropriate to this application, 3.2.1, 4.2.5 through 4.3.2, 4.3.3, 4.5.2, and 4.5.4. And we recommend approval. Oh, wait, I have to do the findings. Yeah. So the project is statements of reason based on the information contained in the application and staff's judgment are. The project is located in a tight loop development pattern. The proposal is in addition to a non-contributing accessory structure. The proposed design, components, and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to, how do we say it?
Include an addition to tertiary AVC.
To include the addition of a shed, roof, dormer, and upper deck on the existing non-contributing garage in the tertiary AVC.
so ma'am, do you have anything else you'd like to say? Right. Commissioners, is there anything else you'd like to say, ask questions about? Got nothing there, nothing here. Candace, nothing. Peggy?
No,
Okay.
no questions.
No question. Okay. So can somebody please make a motion then?
Yeah,
We got somebody over here working on the motion.
if I can, you caught me off guard.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to do that.
What to do with machine?
I'm not sure.
I had a doubt. I must have eaten it. Got your little sheet, Andy?
I don't have one.
I'll make the motion.
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
fill in the
I'll
appropriate-
the teamwork, tag team. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 622 East Front Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, sections 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's Historic District guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact.
So guidelines for additions, 3.3.2, which is similar forms and pitches derived, using similar forms and pitches as on the original structure. Guideline 3.3.3, materials derived. Similar materials are used that are derived from the primary structure. Guidelines for walls, trim, and ornamentation, 4.2.4, which deals with including wood trims around openings in this case. Guidelines for windows, doors, and openings, guideline 4.3.3, and that essentially requires a true divided light.
Findings of fact, the project's located in a tight weave development pattern. The proposal is a small one-story addition to an existing wood structure, a garage. The proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. The zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly, and the project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
Do I have a second?
Okay, I'll bite.
Second? Okay, Dennis, a second?
Madam Chair, just for purposes of the record, the comments made by Mr. Ure are incorporated into the motion made by Mr. Bisbee.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am, they are.
Thank you.
It's a tandem deal. Okay? Right, we have a second. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed, hearing none, the motion passed. Can I have a motion to issue a COA?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Tony's the second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All of those opposed, hearing none, the motion passed. So you can have your COA.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to know what I do with that sheet of paper.
He's not on the other side. There you go. It was there. Okay, so now we're to 222 New Street, a shed that's in the backyard.
226, I think it is.
226, what did I say?
Yeah, you said 222.
Okay, thank you. 226 is the correct
Okay.
number.
So, I loaded so this has been continued from our previous meeting. And so I reloaded the application from that meeting. So we should have everything here. This is the application for 226 New Street for Mr. Ronald and Ms. Penelope Saulnier. And they have a reference to some attachments and then checked off some checks. And the signature of the applicant is not on there. Oh, wait, here we go. There it is. Ding, ding. Thank you. All right. And so they provided a site plan here. So what to note is that I'm going to zoom in here because it's the site is actually has the rear property line of 40 feet side yard, and then the front apparently is 42.25 feet. You can't see the point line. And so the other rectangles are where it says 42, that is the house actually outlined. And then on the right is a fence that goes across from the house to the side property line. And the proposal is the blue rectangle in the back corner of the lot for a shed. And you'll probably remember this when you see it. So we have the drawing here shows that there's a setback of 3 feet, which is required. And this is the house out on the front, and you can see the little white fence here at the end of the driveway. So there's the fence, and the spot where the shed is to go is this area here where the ferns and other growies are on the ground here between the two trees. This is the sketch, the applicant's sketch of the shed, and the 7-foot dimension. This wall with the window would be facing the driveway, correct? And the door is then facing the backyard. And then we have the rest of the information that's required in the application. So the project information, 7-foot by 10-foot by 8-foot high storage shed, sitting on 6x6 pressure-treated wood posts cemented in the ground. Shed constructed using wood frame, wood lap siding with wood trim matching and proportional to the existing residence, similar in mass and scale. All wood is to be primed 2 coats and painted same as the existing residence. Gable roof will have architectural shingles and be similar in shape and slope as the existing residence, and the structure will have one double hung window facing south, one door facing west, and the structure will sit at right rear northeast corner of the lot in the tertiary AVC, 3 feet from the property line at the rear and side. And he indicates some of the guidelines, and the materials are pressure-treated wood for the foundation and floor, wood for the frame, siding, and door, wood frame double-hung glass window, and architectural black shingles on the roof. And so the zoning and inspections, this better have signatures, meets the requirements of land use ordinance and will not require a building permit. And then we're ready with our, really do have the recommendations this time.
Hey, sir, is there, members, is there anybody who has any conflict of interest? Anybody who believes the project is not complete? Okay. Sir, is there anything else you'd like to say at this point in time?
No, I think you had 2 questions last time, and I sent that information. I think one was
Okay.
a picture of the door, and they also how high off the ground.
Okay. All right. There is no one left in the audience, so I'm not going to go through all the proponents, opponents, all the rest of that. There's nobody out there. So we will then hear from you, sir, about your staff findings.
Okay. No audience. All right. So here are recommendations for the project at 226 New Street for Ronald and Penelope Saulnier. So the historic property name is the Thomas B. Whitehurst House, which is a contributing structure. We have the National Register inventory description of the house, which includes it's built in circa 1917. It's 4 square, 2 stories, 3 bays wide at the first level, tripartite window at the second level, full width hip roof porch and hip roof with hip dormer and an interior chimney. Sandbeck had nothing. The project is to include installation of a shed in the tertiary AVC, and staff submits the following historic district guidelines as appropriate to this application. For accessory structures 2.6.1 and 3, for design principles 3.1.1 and 2, for foundations 4.1.3, walls, trim, and ornamentation 4.2.4 and 5, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.2, 2 and 3, paint 4.5.2, 3 and 4, contemporary materials 5.5.1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, and then for statements of reason based on the information obtained in the application in staff's judgment are: 1, the structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. 2, the project is within the tertiary AVC. 3, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. 4, the zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed this project and commented accordingly. And 5, the project is not incongruous with the guidelines. So staff recommends the commission approve this application to include installation of a shed in the tertiary AVC.
So, sir, anything else you'd like to say at this point in time? Those of us who are still here, are there any questions, any comments you'd like to ask? Comments you'd like to say? I don't hear any from anyone, so therefore, would someone like to make a proposal?
I move that we find the application for a certificate of appropriateness for 226 New Street to be not incongruous with New Bern's Code of Ordinance, Section 15-411 to 15-429, and New Bern's Historic District Guidelines based on the following specific guidelines and findings of fact. Accessory structures 2.6.1 and 3, design principles 3.1.1 and 3.1.2, foundations 3.1.3, walls trim 4.2.4 and 4.2.5, windows, doors, and openings 4.3.2 and 4.3.3, paint 5.4.2, 3 and 4, contemporary materials 5.5, 1, 2, 3, and 5 and 6. Statements of fact, structures a contributing resource. Findings of fact, findings of fact, structure is a contributing resource in the tight weave development pattern. Projects within the tertiary AVC, the proposed design components and materials meet the requirements of the guidelines. Zoning administrator and chief building official have reviewed the project and commented accordingly. The project is not incongruous with the guidelines.
So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second over there with Tony. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, the motion passed. Can I have a motion to issue a COA?
So move.
Second.
So moved. Have a second, both to my left. All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Don't hear any. The motion is passed, so you can get your COA, sir.
All right, thank
All
you.
right? Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for waiting through all of this. Thank you.
It's a beautiful home.
Thank you. We really get it back in shape.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks again.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, so old business,
So, Ruth, can I ask a question? Have we ever had anybody get upset like that before about having not known about continuing? I'm wondering, should we post something if somebody continues?
You can't always know, for one, but I guess if you do know, you could.
Yeah, I
well,
didn't
I'm
know.
not sure what he got upset about.
I'm sorry?
I don't know what he got upset about.
He had been waiting for that, that particular application that we had to continue, and so.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was for 322.
No.
Right, well,
So did you know him?
we didn't know that he was waiting for that, I don't know if anybody.
have not met him, and I did not know he was waiting for 305.
Well, we didn't know.
That's what I'm saying, that I didn't know if that's ever been an issue, and,
But I did. Did I not at the beginning of the meeting? Did I not at the beginning of the meeting
No.
say that we were going to do this?
The only thing we might have done is on the front door where it has the agenda, put that item's been continued or something.
Yeah, we could do that.
I don't know what else you
We-
could do.
And if we know at the beginning of the meeting, we could mention it at the
But
beginning
I
of the
did
meeting.
say that at the beginning of the meeting.
and it may have been that he had, I don't know what the timing on that was, because I was tardy myself,
Oh,
but,
okay.
if he had missed that announcement, if it was on the door, then we could be covered, that way,
That too,
Well,
Okay.
I must be
I don't remember
confused.
if you just were talking amongst us or
But
you made it, Mr.
didn't we
Chairman.
ask to agree to people to add this to the list tonight? We didn't do that?
Yes, the gentleman, I think that Commissioner Sullivan is referencing was here for 305 North Avenue.
The one
Oh,
that's
sorry.
continued.
Sorry. Sorry. I got the wrong thing. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
So, I
Well,
guess-
maybe what we can do next time is, if there's some that are that we know about, that they are not gonna be heard tonight, that we could say that at the beginning, would that be helpful?
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
certainly this commission's prerogative. If you want to address any continuances first, or request for continuances first,
Okay.
you can do that.
Okay, we could do that first. I got confused who he was. I thought he was at the 322 thing, and I couldn't understand why he was leaving, so I was confused on that.
It might just say, it's more of a goodwill gesture, really, than, I don't even know if it was ever, in all these years, happened very much, but,
Oh, yes, people have gotten upset before. They've got upset when things go on a long time. and- Yeah, they do.
But not that in particular, not in my memory, that, particular thing.
We could make it a point of order just to mention if there are changes to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting, and
Yeah.
any change. And
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we can do that at the beginning of the meeting.
Because we don't know who's here until we get to the item, so either
Right.
we have a choice to either do all the changes up front so everybody can know, or we can do a roll call or whatever.
Yeah.
But you don't know until you get to
Sometimes
it.
you don't know, sometimes you do know, and if you do know, you can announce that. We did know.
Well, we didn't
Because
know.
Obviously, it was in my presentation here, so I knew a couple days ago.
Okay,
All right,
all right.
so we'll make that part of our discussion, commissioner comments portion.
Yep, you can do that. And if you want to, you can put it on the agenda that,
To change the agenda accordingly.
yeah,
Yep.
you can put that on the agenda, changes to the agenda will be noted, or something like that,
Right.
in the agenda.
Right.
If am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay, so you can put that up top somewhere. So we
Yes,
could do that.
Up there in number 1, 2, or 3.
Yes, in 1, 2, or 3, yeah, you can put it up in there somewhere. And we can do that. Okay? Anybody else, any comments on that? No? Okay. All right, so old business, do we have any old business that we need to go over? Here?
No, we don't.
We're on 4, is that what you're asking me?
Yes, so we have no non-hearing items tabled or continued from a previous meeting.
Okay. We don't have any general comments because there's no general public out there. We don't have any new business that we know of. Do we have any new business?
No.
We have the administrator's report, which we can read, and he's given us information on that. Report on COA extension issued since the prior regular meeting, none. Are there any other items or updates by the administrator?
No,
Okay.
that'll be fine.
Are there any more commissioner comments? You're gonna put that, what we talked about, making that announcement earlier,
Yes.
under commissioner comments?
Yep.
Okay. Did anybody have any other commissioner comments? Okay.
Oh, actually, so one item update by the administrator is that there are several terms that are coming to an end at the end of June. If you are not reappointed, or if you have not yet been replaced, you are expected to continue serving until you are reappointed or replaced.
So your replacement comes, okay.
All right?
What have we done about, so John Blackwater is not coming back, I went and talked to him. So we are looking for somebody to replace him actively?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, can I have a motion for us to adjourn?
So
Her hand went right up, I saw that, right? Even I could see it from here, it went right up, okay. Peggy, you the second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? We are adjourned.
All right.
That's somebody beautiful.
Lord,
Who did the motion to adjourn?
They're very patient.
she did, Candace. She put the hand right up there. I mean, it was high enough I could see it.
All right, I better go.